Hey, what is going on, everyone? It's me, Mr. Morrow, and we're back over here at a good friend, the original Xbox. Now, some of you all who are watching this might be a little bit surprised because we're not starting off with a custom dashboard. We're not in the typical Unleash X setup that I like to show on here. No, this is actually the original stock Microsoft dashboard. I have completely reverted this system to a stock dashboard. There's absolutely nothing on here, and that is intentional because I'm going to be showing you something that is pretty cool. Don't worry, you don't have to wipe your system like I did, but I more just did this here for demonstration purposes. The reason for this is that we're going to be looking at something which I have covered on my podcast Mod Chat, but this has also been released earlier this year. This is the skeleton key payload for the original Xbox from fellow friend of the channel here, Harcroft. Now, in case you have not heard about this, this is described as saying skeleton key is a pair of free in-game payloads with a toolkit of useful applications for the original Xbox. It is designed mainly to run off of a flash drive, however it comes with a few tools, being Xbox Content Archive tool, so the XCAT loader, the Insignia Setup Assistant, a Gamepad Tester, a memory checker for your RAM, the Rocky 5 Softmod version 1.2.2 at the time of recording this, as well as XDON, otherwise known as Xbox Disk Over Network. Now, if you followed the original Xbox modding news here on the channel for a bit, there might be some of the things there that sound familiar, some of them being the Rocky 5 Softmod, XDON, XCAT, and of course Endgame. Now, for those who do not know, I have actually covered this before once Endgame was released, and that is a newer entry point on the original Xbox, which allows us to take a completely unmodified system and be able to run unsigned code on it. Not needing an exploit disk, not needing to install a chip, not needing a TSOP flash, not needing to open up the console and hook up the drive to a computer. You don't have to do any of that. You really just need a memory unit, or in this case, a USB drive, and a way of adapting it to the system. And I've shown that before here using the Rocky 5 Softmod tool. However, this is going to be expanding on that, and I know this is not, there we go, it takes a bit to load up, but this is going to be expanding on that because not only this does have Rocky 5 Softmod tool in there, but it has all the additional tools, so even if you don't want to softmod an Xbox, for example, if you just want to take a system that you might have, run XCAT on it without modding it, and then put it back where it came, you can do that here. You can also, again, test your gamepads, test the memory on there. There's several really nice functionalities on here that you now have in one single payload, which will live on a USB drive. Now, there's going to be a few prerequisites that you're going to need. The first thing here is going to be an original Xbox console. You're going to need one of these systems up and running and working. And if you can connect it to your network as well too, that's going to help out even more, especially for things such as XCAT or even the Insignia Setup Assistant. Again, this is nice that it is technically a modding tool, but if you are not interested in modifying your Xbox, let's say you want to keep it stock, but you do want to register on Insignia, you'd like to run XCAT on there in case there's any content on the drive itself here that might not have been archived or backed up, you can do all that. You can see this one is empty, but again, it allows you to do several operations on here, but you do need a stock and working original Xbox. Now, you're also going to need a USB drive as well as an adapter for your system. Now, I do want to give a shout out and thank you again to friend of the show here, Harcroft. He had actually sent me a USB drive as well as one of these adapters that was built by hand that you could use on the original Xbox. Although don't worry, you don't have to use these exact ones here. I just wanted to give him some thanks on this, but I'm also going to be showing you all how you can do this yourself here. I myself actually have this old adapter right here, which is just one of these USB female to original Xbox controller adapters, as well as a 512 megabyte swivel USB drive. But if you're wanting to do this completely yourself, you are going to need the both of those components. One of them will be a compatible USB drive. Now, I am going to have some linked down below in the description, and you're going to need a USB drive that I would say usually the smaller the better for the original Xbox. And by small, I'm talking like 4 gigabytes or lower on here. Now, I have several links in the description, but again, you want to go with a small drive. Typically, the smaller the better. So some of them that have been verified to work have been this one here, for example, even though it is a 5-pack, the 4 gigabyte USB drive here has been confirmed to work. If you're wanting a single one, which that's probably what you're needing, this V7 2 gigabyte one has seemed to work as well. And again, more packs here. This is actually one of the ones that I have, but it's a 128 megabyte one, and this one seems to work. However, if you don't want to immediately buy a drive, or maybe you just want to chance it a little bit here, what you could do is you could try to either get the smallest drive you can. Like I said, one of these swivel ones, I have one in 512 megabytes and it has worked well for me. Not all drives are going to work, and additionally, not all of them will work on every single system. They can be a little bit touchy, but if you have several drives where you live, in your room, your house, wherever you're at, you might just want to try several of these smaller, older USB drives until you have one that ends up working. That's probably going to be the hardest part of this video here, just getting a compatible USB drive. However, if you need a whole slew of working drives here, there is going to be this link to the ConsoleMod's USB device compatibility list linked down below in the description, and there's plenty to choose from that have been tested here. Again though, do keep in mind, a lot of these are pretty old. Additionally, we also need to make sure we can adapt the USB drive, so getting really any kind of original Xbox USB adapter will help you out as well too, and will also be required. I do find it funny here, you could see frequently bought together, it's the USB drives, as well as this IDE to SATA adapter, so you can tell that there's been a lot of people here who end up getting these to softmod and upgrade their systems, which is nice to see. But either way, getting one of these, whether it is a nice cable like this, whether you make one yourself, or whether you have a PCB such as the one I'm showing here, as long as you can get the USB drive adapted to your Xbox, you should be in good shape. Now for the skeleton key download itself, over on the release page, I would recommend giving this a good read and once over. It will take a minute or two to read through this, and there's a good amount of information here in this small post. But you're going to scroll to the bottom here on the original post, and you can download either the original version or the one for memory units with MU in the title if you're going to copy this to a memory unit. I'm not going to be covering that here because I believe that the full version here is probably going to be the best for most people out there. So if you're going to be following along with a USB drive, just download the version right here that is for USB drives. Now there's a couple ways in which you can set up your USB drive for skeleton key, and the first one here I'm going to say is going to be limited to really small USB drives. I'm talking about like 32 megabytes, 64 megabytes, 128 megabytes. But if you're doing anything bigger, you're going to need the second option, which will be FATXplorer. I'll explain that when I get to these steps as well. But the first one, if you're using a really small USB drive, would be Etcher. Now what you can do is you can download Etcher here, it'll be linked down below in the description. Click on download Etcher, and then you can download whichever build is available for your operating system. Since I'm using Windows, I'm going to download the Windows build. The second one is going to be FATXplorer, and this is going to be if you prefer FATXplorer or if the first option with Etcher does not work for your specific Xbox. Now in order to set up FATXplorer, you can just come over to the website linked in the description, go to the beta right here. You can check out the beta options, what is available on this, some of the features, but then you're going to come down to the downloads section, and there's two downloads that you need. The first one is going to be the .NET 9 desktop runtime, and the second one is going to be the FATXplorer beta itself. Now, if you're running Windows 11, you're going to download the 64-bit versions. If you're running any older operating system, you're going to need to determine which type of bit setup architecture your operating system is running. In short, if you want to make it a little easy, I'd recommend download the 64-bit builds, and if they do not work for you, download the 32-bit versions. But download both of these somewhere you can easily find them. So now these are going to be our downloads for all the options that we have. The first thing that we can do is find our Xbox skeleton key zip file, right click this, and use something such as 7-zip to extract it out right here. It should give you an Xbox skeleton key folder, and within this folder you should have the skeleton key payload itself among a couple of folders as well as the payload file. You're also going to have a readme.txt, which I recommend giving a good once over. And finally, you're going to have the skeleton key image right here. Now keep in mind, if the USB drive you're using is going to be the same size or smaller than this image file, then you can use Etcher. If it is larger than this image file, you're going to have to use FATXplorer. So for our first option for a really small USB drive, you can go ahead and grab Etcher and give it a shot. Once you open up Etcher, go ahead, click on Flash from File, find wherever your skeleton key image is located, and click it. Now it's going to say it's missing a partition table, and that is to be expected. Click Continue. Now select your target, and from here you need to pick your USB drive you're going to be using on your Xbox. Go ahead, check it, and hit Select. Now we're going to get to the flash portion, but keep this in mind. You want to make sure you've picked the right drive, and when you do this, it's going to wipe your drive, so anything that you care about on that USB drive, you need to back up right now before you flash this image over. Once you're ready to do that, go ahead and click flash. This should just take a few seconds, but it will go through the process of flashing the image, and once it's done flashing, it's then going to verify that image. Check it out, we're almost done here. It's now validating it. And once it's validated, we should be all good. And once we're good at this point, we can go ahead and close out of Etcher. From here, you're going to notice that your USB drive is not showing up properly compared to the other ones, and you might even get a prompt letting you know that you need to format the drive. Do not format the drive unless you want to undo all the progress that we just made. But what you can do here, if you're ready to go, you can right click, eject your drive, and take it over to your original Xbox. Now our second option here is going to be using FATXplorer, and this again is if you have a USB drive that is bigger than the necessary image. So for example, I have a 512 megabyte USB drive right here, so this one I'm going to need FATXplorer to get up and running. What you can do is make sure it's plugged into your computer, close out of this, and now the first thing that we need to install is going to be the Windows Desktop Runtime. Double click this, it's going to bring up an installer, and it should have an install button if you have not installed this yet. So go through the standard installation process for that. I've already gone through it, so I'm going to close out of here. Once that's done, we can find the FATXplorer beta zip. You can right click this, use something such as 7-zip to extract it out, and it should produce a FATXplorer folder. Double click this folder, scroll down, find the FATXplorer executable, and double click this to launch it. If you've never used FATXplorer, down in the bottom right, there's going to be a mention of a driver, and if it is not installed, you're just going to need to install that driver, restart your computer, and then open up FATXplorer yet again. Once it is installed, however, and it shows that, you can go to Formatting Tools, make sure your USB drive is connected, select the Xbox Original MU setting, and wait for it to search. Once this comes up, go ahead, find the USB drive that you want to format. Keep in mind this is going to destroy the data on here, so make sure you back up anything you care about from this drive. I know this is my 512 megabyte drive just from what it shows, so I'm going to click that, click next. Data is fine, so hit next. We don't need to name it anything, so you can hit next again, and we're not going to preload this, so hit next and format. Once it's done, hit OK, go to devices, wait for it to scan and find your USB drive, and once it shows up here, you can click that, load device, and we're going to mount the data partition to our X drive, and here you go. Now the nice thing is if you come back here, you'll notice that the USB drive is showing up like this, but the actual partition is showing up as a, well, writable partition. So in order to copy everything over, open up your Xbox skeleton key folder, open up the skeleton key folder, grab the helper, trigger, and payload items, right click, copy them out, close out of here, go to your partition which is now open, right click, and paste into the root of the USB drive. Once that's all done, we can close out of here, go to FATXplorer, devices, click on your original Xbox MU, click on unmount, close out of here, and now go back over to your drives, and just like using the Etcher method, you're going to notice that this drive looks different than all the other ones. That is to be expected due to this being the FATX file system. It's not going to be natively recognized within Windows. Now, if you get a prompt asking you to format this drive, do not format it in your computer unless you want to undo all that work we just did. However, with that completed, we can now right-click, eject this, and take it over to the Xbox. Once you're back over at the original Xbox, it would be recommended if you have the capabilities to plug your console into your local network. Now once it is set up and running, you'll need to take your USB drive, plug it into your adapter, and plug that adapter into any of the free controller ports on your console. Once that's all set up, navigate up to memory, tap the A button, and once you're in here, you should find your memory unit on any of the free ports that you plugged in. Go ahead, highlight that memory unit, tap the A button, and you're now going to get to this point where there's going to be a black screen, a green orb, and your console is going to freeze. This is going to be expected. All you need to do is sit here and wait while the payload copies to your internal storage. Once it copies over, it should cut to a black screen, and soon enough, the skeleton key payload should pop up. And here you go. As long as everything is successful, you should have the skeleton key pop up. So congratulations, you've been able to get it to boot up. Now do keep in mind, there are several people who have asked, what if I just stay at this orb screen and it's not getting past it? How long should I wait? Well, this is not a long process. So I would say if you're stuck at this screen here, wait a minute, maybe even 2 minutes just to be safe. And if it hasn't brought you to the skeleton key screen within 2 minutes, turn off your Xbox, turn it on, and try again. Either way, we can now jump into skeleton key and explore our options here. So of course we have the system options right here, in which you can check your system info, you can check the console info right here, so here's some of my information on here, the storage, you can check that all out, audio settings, video settings, about as well too, you can see everything here, as well as your video settings, your audio settings again, the region settings here, utilities, so if there's anything with the EEPROM you need to do, such as backing it up, that is important, or the DLC and update resigner, you can do that too. You know, I'm actually going to do this. This isn't a bad idea. Let me go ahead and sign them. There we go. So we can X out of that, as well as checking out the 2 games that are included on here. Yes, this does have games, but if we go back, we of course have reboot and shutdown, but the main thing is going to be launch application. So if you tap A here, this is where you have everything else available to you. So let's go ahead and run through some of this. If you want to run XCAT, for example, you must have your console connected to your local network. And then once it's connected, you can tap A on Xbox Content Archival tool and let it launch. Now, if you've never used this before, it's pretty simple. Again, you need to be connected online. All you need to do is tap the A button right here. Once you see these terms and you understand them, you can tap the A button yet again. It brings up a network connection, and from here, you really just let the console sit here and wait. It'll go through the process of scanning all of your files on the hard drive, and if there's any unique individual files which have not been backed up or archived, what it does is it, of course, backs them up and archives them. So this is really great for any Xboxes that were run on Xbox Live back in the day that might have any missing DLC, title updates, and more. Which is why in the community, there's been a little bit of a thing where whenever anybody posts about finding an original Xbox, inevitably in the comments, you'll always find people telling this person to run XCAT on their system, and sure enough, we've been able to find multiple pieces of lost DLC and title updates that some people didn't even know existed. I'm not going to go through the process here, so I'm going to hit B to stop processing it, and then once you're done, you can go ahead and exit out. Now keep in mind, once you exit out of an application, you will have to go through the process of going through the dashboard and relaunching the exploit again to open up skeleton key, but once you're here, you can go back to launch application, and if you want to go through the Insignia setup assistant, for example, you can go ahead and load that up. And yet again, here's another example. Let's say this is a stock console that someone wants to keep stock, but they still want to register on Insignia. Well, what they can do is go to the register Xbox option, tap the A button. Yet again, this does require you to be online. Most of these tools are going to. And then once you wait a little bit, it should, well, there you go, register your Xbox. You can hit OK. If you need to troubleshoot anything, clear your ticket cache, you can do that as well too. And now we can quit the setup assistant because this system has now been registered on Insignia, as easy as that. Another one here is pretty self-explanatory, which is the Gamepad Tester. We can tap the A button on this to launch it. And here we go, look at this, we get this nice little setup right here. So you can go through, you can literally move this thing around. Actually, this is the Duke, so I don't see this all too often here. But you can press the buttons here, go ahead, check this out. So yet again, a really nice use case where if you want to quickly test a whole bunch of controllers, you can do this here and you get a lot more information than you would expect, or really just having to play a certain game to check out everything. But yeah, there you go. If you want to test out your gamepads, your controllers, do whatever you need to, well, you can make it happen with this. Press start and back for the next page. I'm curious. Oh, okay, that's cool. You can change the motor functionality there. So do that yet again. All right, so this is interesting. You got a dead zone tester, which I can tell these sticks are not going to be the best, but that is certainly a way you can test it out. Some more granular information on all the buttons as well here too. So this is just stuff that's really awesome to see here. And of course, we're back to the original controller itself. So yet again, a actually really impressive controller testing kit here if you need to try this out. The next thing we can try is the MemCheck memory tester, which will test our RAM. Thankfully, there's not all too much to do here. You just launch this, you don't even have to press any additional buttons, and it immediately starts testing your RAM. So Pretty self-explanatory if you want to test out the memory on a console here. Maybe it's something you're curious about, maybe there is reason to believe that your Xbox might have some faulty RAM on it, you can go ahead and give this a try. This next one here is going to be pretty self-explanatory, and this is going to be the Rocky 5 softmod, which will of course allow you to softmod your system. Now this application right here, once it launches, I will tell you is the only one that actually makes changes to your system. So if you are interested in softmodding your system or softmodding other systems, you can hit A right here and go ahead and get your system softmodded. Otherwise, if you're not interested in softmodding your system, you can turn off the system, or you can just avoid this option entirely. If you want to know more about what you can do with the softmod, how to set it up and everything, I do have a full tutorial covering how to softmod your system. This final one here, if the title doesn't give it away, is going to require you to be on your network, which is going to be Xbox Disk Over Network, otherwise known as XDON. Now this one here doesn't have much in terms of visuals here, but it says that it's started and ready for connections, and you only really have one option, which is hitting B to exit. However, what you can do if you want to try this out is keep your Xbox on this screen, and while it's running, actually go over to your computer. This one is going to require FATXplorer, but what you can do here within FATXplorer is click on Settings, and within these settings, you can scroll down, and the one thing you're going to have to make sure is enabled is Enable XDON Console Discovery. Now once that has been enabled, we can close out of here. You can now go over to your devices, go ahead and click on the refresh button here, and look to see if it's able to pick up a console on your network. Now I do think XDON is cool. Essentially it allows you to, much like how I was able to pick my USB drive on here, it makes your internal drives detectable through FATXplorer over your network. Unfortunately, I have not gotten XDON to work on my network, and I've actually tried it on two different systems, an original Xbox and an Xbox 360. I can even click on the log right here, and at least with my own experience, it states that it's sending the XDON broadcast, but I am getting a network error stating that a connection attempt failed because the party did not properly respond after a period of time. So for me at least, I haven't been able to experience XDON on my own system here, but if you're able to get your drives to show up, that's awesome. So now that we've been able to work with Skeleton Key here, you could see a little bit of how this is, especially with it being powered by Prometheus as it states in the top left. It's able to give it a lot more features, such as of course going into the system and checking out here. And I will say, if you like the look of this, if you've given it a try yourself, if you're kind of on the fence about it, well, if you're one of those people where you might have prepared a USB drive to softmod your original Xbox, it might have only done one thing, such as, well, running the Rocky 5 softmod. But now with Skeleton Key, you're able to do that and so much more. So if you're one of those people who has one of those USB drives, or you want to build a USB drive, as opposed to only using the softmod for this, you might want to look into putting Skeleton Key on here, because, well, if you can do the softmod and so much more, why not turn your single purpose USB drive into a bit of a multi-tool, so to speak. Either way, that is about it for this video here. This is Mr. Mario, signing off. Thank you all for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, a like would absolutely be appreciated, and if you didn't like it, a dislike is fine as well too.